Hi, I'm Rebecca Reed, and I'm part of the Programs Department here at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. Today, I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite pollinators as part of our Earth Day celebration. So one of my favorite pollinators is the mason bee. And mason bees are a little bit different than the honeybee. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with honeybees. Honeybees produce honey, they make beeswax. And mason bees don't do either of those things. They're actually a native bee. There's 140 species in North America, and they all belong to the genus Osmia. Now, there's a lot of members in that genus, and they're, obviously 140 in North America. So they all look a little bit different, but most of them have a lot of green and metallic greens, metallic blues on them. Apparently there's a couple that are rusty colored, but if you see a lot of blue and green, there's a good chance that you're looking at a mason bee. Now, those mason bees, they're called that because they have a habit of using mud to make nests. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. Now, like I said, they're native bees, and they're much more effective pollinators than a lot of the other pollinators we use. They have about a 95% pollination rate, and they'll visit between 1,600 flowers and 2,400 flowers each day. And to compare that, a honeybee has about a 5% pollination rate. Now, you would think, oh, they're so good at this. The reason they're so good at pollinating is because basically when they land on a flower, they sort of crash land. Like, they're not graceful, it's not pretty, and basically in their messy landing, they touch all the stamens to get all the pollen all over them, and then when they go to the next flower, they transfer that pollen. And so that's really why they're such great pollinators. It's not like because of some amazing flight thing they do or anything. It's basically because they sort of are messy flyers and kind of crash land and get all that pollen all kicked up. Now, like I said earlier, they don't produce honey or wax, and so they nest a little differently. Like, if you think of a honeybee, you think of the beehive houses with the cells you bring out. They have all the little bee kind of things, and they cut it open, the wax, and then all the honey comes out. Mason bees don't do that. Mason bees are solitary bees, so they don't live in a community together. So that means all of the females are queens. A queen honeybee can lay eggs and produce the next generation. All of the female mason bees are able to do that. And there's also no workers because there's no communal hive. Now, just because they're solitary bees doesn't mean they don't like to live near each other. And so you'll see lots of times people will have bee houses like these for their mason bees. And you can see it's kind of like a bee hotel, and there are all sorts of different cells on where they can live. Now, the way this works, I'm going to show you. There are little tubes inside these houses. And what they'll do in these is the female will go in, and she'll first get food together for the larva form. And they like to eat pollen. So she'll collect pollen, and she'll mix it up with spit and nectar into a ball, and she'll put that inside one of those tubes. And then she'll lay an egg on that, and then she'll take mud and she'll make a wall. And then she'll do it again and again and again until she gets finally to the outside of that tube. At that point, she'll make a thicker wall on the outside. And what's really interesting to know is that the female bees are the ones that are furthest in, and then the males are furthest out, because the males need to be out first so that they can mate. And so in the spring, early spring, they'll mate, and then they'll look for nesting sites. Now, if you want to have these kinds of bees in your yard, in your garden, it's really simple. They're really attracted to having like the appropriate place to lay their eggs. Like, that's what they're looking for. So you can buy commercially produced houses like these with all the little tubes. You do periodically need to like clean out the used ones and do some maintenance and kind of fix them up. Or you can build your own mason bee house. And we actually already have a DLO video on our website that talks about how to do that. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely go check that out. I'm so glad I got to share a little bit with you today about the mason bee, my favorite bee and my favorite pollinator. And we hope to see you again soon at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. Have a great day.